What's up, Taiwan? I'm Sandy Chi with 10 minutes of news from here in Taiwan and around the world. Starting off with international news, China's top diplomat has said the relationship between Beijing and Moscow is, quote, rock solid. Wang Yi made the comments during a trip to the Russian capital, following high-profile speeches by the presidents of both the US and Russia. James Tater has more.
As the one-year anniversary of Moscow's invasion of Ukraine approaches, two major speeches by the presidents of Russia and the US, with two very different narratives on the conflict. In Moscow, Russian President Vladimir Putin said responsibility for the war lay with the West. The US and its allies, Putin said, were trying to end Russia and had turned a local conflict into global confrontation.
Донбасс сражался, отстаивал право жить на своей земле, говорить на родном языке. Боролся и не сдавался в условиях блокады и постоянных обстрелов.
Putin also announced he was suspending Russia's participation in a nuclear arms control treaty with Washington. The new Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty, or New START, had permitted the two countries to inspect the other's nuclear arsenal.
Kyiv stands proud, it stands tall, and most important, it stands free.
Hours after Putin's speech, US President Joe Biden spoke before crowds in Poland. Fresh from a visit to Ukraine's capital Kyiv, Biden casts the war as a tussle between democracy and autocracy, adding that Ukraine would never be a victory for Russia. Biden addressed these words directly to Russian citizens.
The United States and the nations of Europe do not seek to control or destroy Russia. The West was not plotting to attack Russia, as Putin said today. And millions of Russian citizens who only want to live in peace with their neighbors are not the enemy.
The two speeches came as China's top diplomat Wang Yi arrived in Moscow for talks with Russian officials. There, amid US concern that Beijing will provide lethal weapons to Moscow, Wang described China-Russia relations as rock solid.
中方愿意同俄方一道，按照两国元首的战略部署，坚定地捍卫各自的国家利益和民族尊严。
Russia's invasion of Ukraine has left thousands dead and displaced millions. The messaging from leaders at the war's one-year mark, evidence that the conflict's final impact on global politics is far from being decided. Damon Lin and James Chater for TaiwanPlus.
Meanwhile, NATO Chief Jens Stoltenberg says he is increasingly concerned that China may provide Russia with weapons to continue its invasion of Ukraine. His comments were made shortly after Russia announced it would leave a nuclear arms control agreement. Speaking at the alliance's headquarters in Brussels on Tuesday, Stoltenberg warned that Russia is showing no signs of ending its invasion of Ukraine. And he said that Russia could reach out to other countries like North Korea, Iran, and China to bolster its forces ahead of a renewed offensive.
We are also increasingly concerned that China may be planning to provide lethal support for Russia's war. Putin must not win. That would show that aggression works and force is rewarded. It would be dangerous for our own security and for the whole world. So we must sustain and step up our support for Ukraine. We must give Ukraine what they need to win and prevail as a sovereign, independent nation in Europe.
Two high-level Taiwanese officials made a formal visit to Washington, D.C. on Tuesday. Foreign Minister Joseph Wu and National Security Council head Wellington Gu visited the headquarters of the American Institute in Taiwan. The AIT functions as Washington's de facto embassy to Taipei. They held a closed-door meeting with U.S. officials about security issues. U.S. Deputy Secretary of State Wendy Sherman was also at the talks. Back in Taiwan, the country's Kinmen Islands sit just off the Chinese coast. For decades, they were run by the military and faced shelling from China. Kinmen is still an important base for the armed forces, but now local councillors want the military gone. Stash Butler has the story.
In 1958, Taiwan's Kinmen Islands were bombarded by Chinese forces for 3 months. It was part of a conflict that came to be known as the Second Taiwan Strait Crisis. The islands lie in the Taiwan Strait, just 10 kilometers off the Chinese coast and about 200 kilometers from Taiwan's main island. Today, Kinmen enjoys peace and has a healthy tourism industry. But old military defenses still dot the coastline, and the islands remain a key base for Taiwan's armed forces to fend off any potential attacks by China. Now, a group of local councillors wants those forces gone. They want Kinmen to be demilitarized as a token of cross-strait peace. On Tuesday, the councillors handed their petition to the local leader of Taiwan's ruling Democratic Progressive Party, or DPP.
让我们金门永久地保持一个和平的两岸的一个沟通跟相处的一个过程。
乡亲地区的这些民情我们也都乐于来转呈向中央来这个陈述。
The petition puts pressure on the government over its fraught ties with China, which claims Taiwan as part of its own territory. Beijing regularly flies warplanes near Taiwan's airspace and refuses to talk to Taipei unless it agrees Taiwan is part of China. But just last week, the vice chair of Taiwan's main opposition party, the Kuomintang or KMT, met with senior Chinese officials in Beijing. The KMT says that proves it can handle delicate cross-strait relations better than the DPP. But the DPP has hit back. It says the KMT and China are working under a tacit agreement reached in 1992, and that's undermining Taiwan's sovereignty.
中华民国已经是一个主权独立的国家，中国的国家主席习近平已经再三的讲过，92共识就是一个中国一国两制，这是台湾人民没有办法接受的。希望各个党团、各个党派都能够来尊重我们台湾人民的意志。
Opposition figures say they can defuse tensions with China. Some want to demilitarize Kinmen as a token of goodwill. But as Beijing continues to ramp up its military pressure, Taiwan's armed forces may see that as removing what could be the first line of defense against a Chinese attack. Eason Chen is Dash Butler for TaiwanPlus.
An anti-trafficking NGO is warning Taiwanese job hunters to think twice about considering offers in Cambodia. It says human trafficking rings there have resumed posting fake job ads to lure in victims. The group says that despite a string of high-profile cases last year, people are still falling for these scams. Our reporter John Van Triest has the story.
At first glance, this photo of a full airplane cabin may not appear unusual, but if you know what to look for, it shows something far more worrying. A group that fights human trafficking says these passengers are not tourists or business people. The plane is bound from Taiwan to Cambodia. In the past year or so, hundreds of Taiwanese people have been lured to Cambodia with promises of high-paying jobs, only to be held captive by human traffickers. Footage taken last year shows some victims with signs of torture. As Taiwan has worked to get its citizens home, the authorities have also dispatched police to the country's main airport to hold up signs warning potential victims. But the global anti-scam organization says trafficking rings have regrouped now the limelight has moved away from them, and they're now looking for fresh targets. The anti-trafficking group believes most passengers in the airplane photo are either criminals or their victims.
我今天看到的是整班飞机爆满，而且事实上那些干部根本就没有掩饰这些事。
Taiwan's police force says it has kept up its warnings about trafficking and that it hasn't seen a particular uptick in cases.
警方呢，针对求职诈骗，已经透过各种管道向民众传输宣导说怎样的类型是诈骗。那如果遇上呢，你要到国外去，警方也是会对你进行宣导，就是是否宣导呼吁说，你会不会落入求职诈骗的陷阱。
But the global anti-scam organization says instances of possible cons are still cropping up, such as suspicious job ads on social media. So while reports of new trafficking cases have slowed since last year, the group is still urging caution. Howard Zhang and John Van Triest for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. Remember to download the TaiwanPlus app for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally today, we leave you with images of orange trumpet vines and cherry blossoms in Taiwan. I'm Sandy Chi. Take care and see you next time.